What is going on? We're back. We are live. Let's see if we have some give people a chance to come in. I've been okay, very good. So, welcome to the live stream that's all about improving and optimizing performance, whether that is in sport, whether that is in study, whether that is in work. We've got I'm going to share this with you all. A very very good day plan. We have so much um there we go. We have so much film to review. I was able to meet in person with some of my clients this past weekend. So we have some fun stuff today and some fun stuff tomorrow that we will be going over. And in addition to that, we have this very influential and important framework that I've been learning from a virtual guide, mentor, whatever you want to call it, coach, who is well known. And once we go over the framework that we're discussing, it will provide benefit not only for the short term but for the long term as well. So I'm very excited to present this all to you and give this out. So I think maybe we'll start with the presentation as opposed to athlete film. Um, and then we can go over the film that I got from one of my athletes who is very eager to get her film reviewed. So I'm excited to do that for her for today. And we will be live again tomorrow as well. Hopefully earlier than today. It's track season, right? So I'm out there at the track. I do my best to get off on time so that I can hop on live at a reasonable hour for those of us that are on the East Coast, but doesn't always work that way. My duties often recall or you know need me to be at the track. So it is what it is, but I'm still going to go live today, tomorrow, in the future. I need to learn how to go live while I'm not at home. I think that would actually help a lot. I'm sure it's more simple than I have this like fancy setup that I build, but I'm sure it's much more simple than that. So, okay. At the expense of just continuing to hear myself talk, let's go over this quite important. What looks the best here? Honestly, I think this might look the best. Okay. So we're going over this presentation, this framework, basically on how to learn anything faster. Any skill that you want to learn, this framework will allow you to learn it quicker. And you see, you can get measurably faster in the next 30 days. Here's the proven system. So this is going to combine Tim Ferriss's DSSS system with the Speed Lab Sprint protocol, where over the 30 days, you're going to see real speed gains. And once you master this framework, you can learn any skill 2 to 3 times faster in life. Hello there, Leah. Nice for you to stop by. I hope you're doing well tonight. So once you learn the system, you'll be able to learn any skill 2 to 3 times faster. So this is no longer just about running fast or being good at sports. This is about how to increase or decrease the time it takes you to learn a new skill. And so I thought this was really cool and something that I can share with everyone here. Why 30 days is the perfect window? Well, it's long enough to begin to rewire neural patterns. It's short enough that you stay locked in. You know, the longer that people are on the journey, the more people jump off, which is honestly a good thing, because if you can just stay consistent, you can beat like 99% of people out there. But we're going to go ahead and shorten that time up for you that it takes to get good. And you will be able to see visible gains in 30 days. Now, your metrics may not have the largest drops over 30 days, but your film should reflect that you're picking up these new skills. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Most athletes train harder. They think that running harder, running more, putting more effort in, trying more is going to be what makes them faster. While elite athletes know that you must train smarter, rather smarter and harder. In this concept of rising to the level of your goals, or falling to the level of your systems is so true, right? If you don't have the right systems in place, like rising to your goals is kind of about motivation, but motivation quickly diminishes, and then you just basically rely on your systems. What's up, Aiden? Thanks for stopping by. How's it going? So introducing the DSSS framework, the 4-step framework that Tim Ferriss used to learn to tango in 6 days, become a kickboxing champion, become fluent in multiple languages, and master dozens of skills rapidly. Tonight, we're going to use this system and weaponize it for pure speed, learning how to run faster. Who is Tim Ferriss? If you don't know Tim Ferriss, he's an excellent author and kind of philosopher, and just does really dope shit. Honestly, he's got these 2 best-selling novels. He probably has more than that. I think he also has Tribe of Mentors is one that's not on here. That's very good. But he has a 4-hour work week, the 4-hour body. If you haven't read those, it's great insight. And why his method is unique is that he studies world-class performers and reverse engineers their success. Tim has been able to identify the 20% of actions that create 80% of results. That's exactly what we're going to cover today. And he masters complex skills in weeks instead of years. So some real examples are that he learned how to be a world champion tango dancer in 6 months and won a national title when most people train all their lives for that. He became a kickboxing champion using leverage-based techniques, so understanding what 20% of actions create 80% of the results. This is where we're going to spend the bulk of the time tonight. And he built and sold businesses using accelerated learning frameworks. So why will DSSS work for sprinting? Well, speed and running is a skill, and skills are made up of micro skills, and micro skills can be isolated, selected, sequenced, and mastered fast. So who am I? I'm Coach Chase. Been 23 years running track and field. I've done cool things, including this animation of me going Super Saiyan. That is actually a picture from a real meet, but did a little cool stuff to make that happen. I still train. I still coach. Showing up is every day is a simple solution. We're going over how to show up smart. What's up? I am DC. How's it going? So this is, without knowing it, this is the framework that I used for my own athletes, including Dave, who you see his stats here. We were able to improve, including Liam. You see his stats here. We were able to improve, and you see Casey. You see his stats here. We were able to improve and get him into college. And these are just a handful of the athletes that I coach who ultimately we work through this framework. And again, I didn't even realize that this is what I was doing for them until Tim Ferriss was able to break it down. So what took months for these athletes or years, I've been able to now put into a system that can take a matter of 30 days for you that are watching. So speed begins before you even take the first step. So the DSSS. The D stands for deconstruction. We're going to break the skill into the smallest atomic units. So for the purpose of our channel and learning how to run fast, we're going to break running down or speed into posture, into force, into rhythm, elasticity, acceleration, max velocity, and you can continue to break it down. But these are really the pieces that make up a large bulk of the success that you will have as a sprinter. You have this nice image here where you have this athlete essentially puzzle piece together and all the things that matter: force, posture, rhythm, elasticity. And so we have 6 Speed Lab atomic units. So these are the things that really matter, that are really going to separate you. And when you can isolate what needs work and you can improve whatever needs work in these 6, this is what's going to give you that 80% return for 20% of the work. So posture, force production, right? Plyometrics, how much force and how quickly can you apply that force? Elasticity, rhythm, acceleration, and max velocity. So see here a little prompt, type 1 through 6 on the unit that's holding you back. So after the deconstruction comes selection. So what of these 6 atomic units can you select that will give you the 80-20, right? This is called Pareto principle, which is that you're doing all this work, and truthfully, there's 20% of the work that you're doing that produce 80% of the results, and the rest of the 80% of the work you're doing gives you the 20% of the results. So if you fix these big levers, then you will see instant drops. And this is how we plan on achieving big gains in just 30 days here. So again, this is an example. So let's say you looked at the levers and you realized that your posterior chain, or we went over film together, as we're going to do later in this presentation, and you realize that your posterior chain and hamstrings need activation. Your acceleration, the angles at which you accelerate are off, and that needs a lot of work. Your front side mechanics could need work. Your rhythm, facial and shoulder relaxation. So you've selected what needs work just based off of your film, or you've hired a coach, or you've stepped into our speed lab, and we've identified that, okay, out of all the levers, these are really the ones that are holding you back. So just for example here, is it up? Yes. Okay, so this is one of my athletes that I worked with, and it's very clear here that rhythm is one of her levers that needed work. Look at how blocky and clunky this is. Sorry, Shane. She always asked me not to go so hard on her, but okay. So you saw how clunky, and this is another example. Okay, that sprint is very methodical. It's very thought out. There's a lot of reasons there. But what we did was in one session, we deconstructed everything that we needed to. We selected what mattered the most, and then we were able to follow up with it. And this run is so much more fluid than the previous run. And also this run is so much more fluid. So this was at the end of our workout. The other runs were at the beginning of the workout. Look at how much more fluid that looks, right? So what we were able to do for Shane is exactly what we just went over, which was the deconstruction and the selection. We put it together, followed by sequencing. So now that you've identified, and so now that you've deconstructed what needs work, you've selected the 80-20, the 20% of things that will give you the 80% of the results. Now, what do you do? So this is often where a coach comes in, and it takes a little bit of communication and familiarity for coaches to be able to quickly identify what the athlete needs. So, but the next step that will probably take place is, in what order do we attack these skills that are lacking? So this is what sequencing means. So, the wrong order could mean injury or plateaus or frustration. Often for sprinting, the wrong order will often mean that you just try to go sprint as fast as you can. And I know it's a little counterintuitive, because sprinting is literally running as fast as you can, or at least running for speed. But oftentimes you don't need to start at 100%. You need to start at 70 or 75. So that's what a coach can help put these in the right order, so that you have predictable 30-day breakthroughs. And in Tim Ferriss' example, he would probably identify what needs work for him. And in terms of sequencing, if you don't have a coach, you can watch other sprinters and see what they do and see how they train, and help you sequence it yourself if you're not in a position to have a coach with you. So an example might be, okay, so you've identified that front side mechanics need work. How do you fix it? You implement a lot of stuff in the warm up that work on front side. You activate your glutes and posterior chain. You work on acceleration, then rhythm. Next comes flying sprints. But once you've begin to master your front side, and then recovery from all the work that you've been doing. So that's just an example of sequencing. What it might look like when you train for speed over these next 30 days as you try to get faster is is just how we mentioned, right? You might deconstruct week 1, then you select, you dial in on your big 4, then you sequence, you figure out that acceleration needs work, but also rhythm, then you can achieve your max velocity. And finally, you add stakes. So you want to test, lock in, level up. So stakes. This is why most athletes stay stuck. This is the real secret to the DSSS method. This is why most athletes quit by day 12, is because they don't have any stakes, right? They don't make public commitments. So inside of the Speed Lab, we're going to have a place for public commitments. We have video weekly check-ins where we can fix your form, accountability partners, and often your coach is your accountability partner, or the person teaching you, or, you know, even better than a coach is our teammates. So if this is a challenge you decide to take, bring in a teammate, because your peers are honestly much better peer pressure than a coach might be. And so again, this is something that you can try on the Speed Lab here. I'll have a link in the description. And then in terms of speed, what you can do is on day 0, you want to test your standing broad jump, 3-step bound, 5-step bound. These are all going to test your explosiveness, your reactivity. And then you have a 15-second test where you basically start at the 200 meter. You see how far you go in 15 seconds. And then you have a 50-second test where you start at the 400 meter and you see how far you can go in 50 seconds. And then at the end of the 30 days, you'll just retest all of these so that you have some concrete numbers to go back to compare. One of the beliefs and things that I have is that if you are not tracking it, then you're not really that set up to see positive change. You don't really care that much, essentially. If you're not tracking, if you're not writing it down, whether that's in your phone or a notebook, then you don't really care. So this is one of the reasons that we do that. So a real transformation. Again, we went over Liam. You see his numbers that he was able to change. He started at 13.5. He made it to 11.3. Started at 56, made it to 53. And we applied the same techniques to speed. He's the same athlete. We just used a different process for him. And it took him longer than 30 days. And we were in person. But again, this framework from Tim Ferriss really helps me streamline the process that I take as a coach to be able to achieve this for my athletes. And you have this dual promise here. Once you learn this system, we're learning it in the context of sprinting and running fast. We want to drop time. We want to jump further in the next 30 days. We want to jump higher, same difference. But it's also this long-term benefit that you're going to see, where once you learn this DSSS framework, you'll be able to master, whether that's weightlifting, business, school, languages, dancing, instruments, content creation, any skill 2 to 3 times faster, right? Speed is just that first domino that we're working on right now. So now comes the challenge, 30-day DSSS fast track challenge, which is limited to 40 athletes, because that's kind of what I can manage. We'll have like a cohort so that it happens all at once. So December 8th, the doors will close to this 30-day program where you'll have templates, weekly group coaching calls, feedback, private community, a leaderboard, Q&A. And if you can complete all the assignments and you don't see improvement in your times or your distance that you're jumping, you can get your money back. So this will be a whole course dedicated to this. So you have modules and all kind of fun stuff. So the first 20 athletes also get a one-on-one 30-minute form breakdown call. You don't become fast by running more. You become fast by running smarter. So, and that's it for that. Now, we do have a lot of athlete film to review here, as I said. So let's get into that. Let me see here. Maybe this one? Nope. Maybe this one. Yes. There we go. Look at me figuring stuff out. Okay. I think maybe for this one, we'll go in this mode here. Let's see what this looks like. Okay, so we have fast feet here with one of my athletes. We're really working on this. Really working on this hamstring engagement and snapping up, and grabbing. That's kind of what I'm focused on, is creating that elasticity and that neural pathway, so that her system begins to operate in this fashion rather than in this fashion. And for Shane, she's got a great endurance tank, but her quickness is not quite there. So that's what we're working on. And you get to see all the micro details, the dorsiflexion or lack thereof, the elbow separation or lack thereof. Even though it's on a small scale, everything should still look similar. And for Shane, it's not horrible there. We want to see her remain tall as well. Okay, so this is just a drill that I implemented for Shane in the very beginning. Again, we worked through the DSSS method that we talked about earlier. I identified that for Shane, her quick, fast twitch muscles are really not where we need them to be to achieve her goals. And so we did that first drill, and now comes fast leg with a right cycle, or straight leg bound with the right cycle. I refer to them as very similar things here. And this one's a little tricky for Shane, but we're working the same thing. We're working that hamstring engagement on the way down and through the ground, and the quick cycles, as well as remaining tall, as well as dorsiflexion, as well as rhythm and relaxation. This is one of my favorite drills. So, and striking under her hips. So we're going to pay attention here. Is Shane under her hips? Is her foot dorsiflexed? Let's see. Okay. Not bad. You see the smiles on her face. She's feeling a little bit out of rhythm there. So we know that rhythm is one of the major levers that we need to pull for Shane in order to increase her speed. And it just sometimes it takes a couple for athletes to get the rhythm. So that rhythm looked better. Let's see. One of the other things I look for on these is, what is this leg that's not cycling? What is it doing? Because it shouldn't still be lazy, even though it's not cycling. And it looks like for Shane, it got a little lazy. And all the emphasis was on the cycling leg. And that's just going to make it harder for her to find her rhythm. I wasn't the biggest fan of that one, Shane. Let's go to the next one. It's always easier to criticize or scrutinize something in slow motion. But you see she's gone back a little bit to her herky-jerky style, where it doesn't look quite as smooth. And I think that's just because she's trying a bit too hard there. This one looks better. So something up with the right leg. Even that one looks like a little bit of a gallop. So another drill that Shane can incorporate into her warm-up to work on rhythm, posture, and elasticity. Okay. I guess are we just going in circles here or what? Okay. So that was part 1. We have part 2 here with Shane. And looks like we have some drills. Yes. Okay. So one of the other things I was working on with Shane and her brother Satchel, actually, which we'll go over his film tomorrow afternoon, is this concept of exchanging and snapping down. So I want this heel. So we want the shins at 45. They look okay here. And we want that snap to be crisp. And we want those feet to be stable. So her feet have a little bit of give to them. We want that to be stiff. So sometimes it's a little bit tough as you do the single leg. I think I have her going, yes. So these are double leg switches. Let's see if it sticks a bit better. So the stick comes a little better here. You see, I'm trying to zoom in on her ankles and how stable or unstable they are. So a little bit of stiffness, as in we need it to be more stiff. And then we were working on low heel recovery. So this is a drive phase drill, right? I want Shane's body to remain at 45 degrees. I want strength from the ground all the way through the head, right? This is a lever. We discussed this on our physics of running course video, where this whole thing is a lever. So if this foot is flat, that makes my lever shorter. And we want to work on the low heel coming through here. We don't want to, oh, look at that. That's a nice picture. That's actually what you want to see. That brings me to another point. Let's go to the next video. I'll bring up my next point. So this should be 3. Yep. So what we're looking for as well. Now, this is not stuff I want Shane thinking about. I just want her focused on the low heel recovery. But I want, as this foot comes up, this foot needs to come down same time. I don't want her to hit the ground and this foot just be coming up. You see the separation she gets? That's good. 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. So that leg actually needs to be stiff. You see she's probably getting a little bit tired here. Or maybe I just paused it at an awkward time. And she's trying to drive the fence over. Okay, so from there, we move into what I call rolling starts. So she's going to get in her 2-point stance, and then I want her to roll forward, almost like a falling start, but her feet are, the difference for falling start is your feet are parallel to each other. And in a rolling start, they are staggered as though you're doing a real start. I want her to fall forward in this position until her shin, again, reaches that 45-degree angle, and then she takes off. And I want low heel recovery for at least 3 or 4 steps before she begins to cycle. So that was her first attempt. You see she got stuck in the mud a little bit there. Didn't really push out that well. So the push comes from weight on this front foot. So she just didn't roll enough because that shin never actually got to 45. Look at this. It's sitting, maybe a little bit more forward than perpendicular, 90 degrees. But she doesn't really, not a bad roll, right? She literally has to come to this 45-degree angle in order to push off. So let's see what happened. Drags the toe a little bit. I used to drag my toe as a sprinter, and I know there are tons of coaches who are like, that just creates friction and slows you down. However, when you go look at the best sprinters in the world, 50% of them, 70% of them drag their toe. Like they're not trying to do it, but they do it. And I'm going to listen to them rather than anyone else telling me to do anything else. So if you see like a majority of professional sprinters doing something, another one is whether you put both knees down when you're in the blocks or one knee down. And if you look at the starting line of the 100-meter finals for Olympics, it's about 50% of them have both knees down, 50% of them have one knee down. So any coach that tells you like one way is right or one way is wrong, and same with the toe drag, they're bullshitting you, honestly, because how come half the people in the Olympic final are doing it, but you're telling me that it's wrong? Like that those two things don't make sense. So anyway, the point of the toe drag is full extension, and she does a decent job with this full extension, but I think this foot actually hits flat rather than drive back. And let's see, that's a nice low heel, and then it cycles up and through. So that's where the inconsistency of her start came from. But that was the first start out of many. So like that was literally her first time trying this ever. So I'm being nitpicky here, but I mean, what do you expect when it's your first time? Like that was much better. That was a much better roll. Still up in her head. Like I can tell that she's in her head because it's a little bit jerky. Like that was more smooth, in my personal opinion. What's up, Brantley? How's it going? Just reviewing some of my athletes' film here. That was more smooth. I like that one better. Maybe a little long. Good. Do you are you a athlete, Brentley, or are you just stopping by? I can't see what's in your picture. Maybe it's you doing sports. I'm doing well, man. Yeah. It's a good day. Anytime I'm on live and I'm functional, like it's a good day. This is maybe a low standard, but that's the truth. She's starting to get it a little bit. That lag of hers from her starts is no longer there, and this just comes from reps. I think actually this is a 30 meters. Yes. So she's going to this cone here. And one of the things that I talked to Shane about is when you're in your dry phase, the dry phase should last about 30 meters, right? So that's for the fastest people in the world. So if you're driving for 25 meters, that's still pretty good, probably much better than your competition. If you're coming up at 5 meters, that's a problem. But staying in your dry phase should actually not be so challenging. But what I find is that most people who do it wrong, it's a challenge to stay in your dry phase for 30 meters, but that's just because you're doing it wrong. So with a lot of these things that we fixed with Shane, she eventually found that it was easy to stay in her dry phase as she continued on the low heel recovery. And so that was a nice start by Shane. Brantley, I do. Hey, that's nice. What events do you do? Brantley says, I do track in Greenwood. I don't know where Greenwood is. So we have another 30 here, I think. Still a little bit. That's actually not bad. I like that. Let me see it again, full speed. Yeah, I like that. It just takes Shane a little longer to get going. So we know that, again, maybe elasticity is a bit of her problem. So some plyometrics are going to greatly benefit her. So we might be going 60 here. Nice. Okay. Like hurdles and stuff. Sometimes I do a 400. That's nice. Good. You like the hard events, right? People no one really, this athlete here is a 400-meter runner, actually. And one of her limiting factors, one of the levers we can pull on for her to make her faster is by doing shorter things, because her quick twitch muscles are not quite where they need to be. But the 400 is a challenging, one of, if not the most challenging event, one of them. And hurdles takes some guts as well, because hitting a hurdle, falling down, getting up is no fun. But awesome, good for you. Thanks for hanging out. If you are interested in getting anything reviewed, you can just click the link in the description and upload some video, and I'll be happy to review it for you. Okay, so another thing Shane and I talked about is how important body position is at 10 meters. Like, everybody wants to win the start. I heard this from a great coach, which is so true and so important that I'm going to say it again, which is like, everybody wants to win the start. I know it feels great to have the fastest reaction and everything, but more important than winning the initial reaction from the gun is what body position you're in at 10 meters. Like, obviously you can't be significantly behind, but if you're just a little bit behind at 10 meters, but you're in a better body position than the people next to you, then you're going to be okay further down the race. The very beginning of your race sets up everything else. So if you have a crappy, out of rhythm start, then that's just going to show up down the track, and you're going to have to fight really hard to get back in rhythm. All right, no problem, Brantley. Thanks for stopping by. See you next time. Okay, so Shane did that really well, and it pays off down here. We talked about her rhythm, and it looks excellent. Now I see that she's trying hard. Oh, right. You can see the effort level in there. She doesn't look quite as relaxed as I need her to be. I think we discussed this in the middle of our training session, and I told her, just, hey, chill out, take it down 5%, but let me see you hit the same positions. And so this one looks like she did that. I don't know if this is the exact one where I asked her to do that, but that one looks good. Okay, we're almost done. Finally, part 3. So one of the final things Shane and I discussed is that this style workout, once you begin to go downhill, that's when this style workout stops. Like, they're not like 300 repeats or 250 repeats or even 150 repeats when you do short, fast, high quality things. Once the high quality is no longer high quality, it's mid quality or even kind of high quality, but starting to suffer. That's when we shut it off completely. And so, and some of these you can see Shane trying, like, those 60s look long, right? So I let her get away with a few more than I otherwise would have. And then eventually I called it, like, okay, we're done here, because I think she's actually going to go 90 here. Yeah. So you can see the quality of her sprint go down just a little bit. And the way that I can tell that is, again, for Shane, it's the herky jerky style of sprinting, like maybe disconnected, doesn't look as rhythmic. Once she gets into that style, I know that the fatigue is setting in. And funny enough, she didn't even realize it until I stopped her. And then when she did her cool down, she was like, oh yeah, like, actually I feel my psoas feel like they're on fire. This one actually looks really good. I like that. So this looked really good, but one thing that cued me into her fatigue was that, great, that was 30 that she just passed. That's 60 that she's passing. Look at this. Great job, Shane. That foot is going to strike under the hips. You're in a good position. But I need to see this cadence pick up. You see how the cadence actually slows down? I need it to pick up from 60 to 90. And it was slowing down. So that was my cue for Shane to be like, all right, we're done. Yes, very good. Okay. That was great. I think, Shane, I think you've made big improvements here, and we've got much more to go, but I really am a fan of what I just saw. And it's like really rewarding that when you're fresh, they look amazing. And as silly and like it may not make sense, but it's also still a great sign that when you're fatigued, it goes back to how it was because we know that we're making those improvements and we can see and feel when we revert back. And so we just have to continue to make those improvements. Um, and we can trust what we see. So that was great. I had fun with that. As I said, tomorrow I'll be back with a new presentation and a new film, actually from Shane's brother, Satchel. So looking forward to going over that. And that was great. Thanks everyone for being here. We've got Brantley, IMDC, Aiden, Leah, what's happening? What's good? Um so that was it for today. See you all later. Tomorrow. Tomorrow tomorrow I have practice, but I want to go live again. I'm thinking I'm gonna do my best to make it at 5:30 p.m. PST, but we'll see how that goes. It might actually be closer to 6. Just have a busy season, so I'm gonna try that 5:30 or 6 tomorrow. Hopefully, I could be here a little earlier 5, but I'll see y'all then. Thanks for coming by. Peace.